What's a whippet?
I don't know.
It's a weird one. It's almost like the toilet paper shortage, except a little bit more extreme.
Because I'm a huge fan.
There's like an egg shortage right now in the U.S. Hundreds of thousands of birds have been killed.
Oh, we'll just take inflation down because that's how.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope everyone's doing good. Today we're going to be taking a look at something a little bit more somber. It is the UK strikes. I've been hearing a lot about them from people that message me on Instagram and Discord, and Laura sent this our way. I just wanted to check it out and share it with you guys on the channel. Since we have mostly a UK audience, I wanted to get kind of your guys' perspectives, what you guys think of this. If this is really true, this is like the news we're getting,
right? Somewhat.
I don't really know too much about them other than the strikes are happening and they're like the worst in a very long time, and in some ways I think of all time.
Oh wow.
But again, I'm not for sure. So anyway, this is to catch us up and also to have you guys comment down below and share your thoughts and what you guys are going through.
Let us know how accurate some of this is.
Then we'll also tell you guys a little bit about what's going on the US side after we watch this. But we're going to go straight into it and check it out and see what is going on over there.
Protesting over pay, jobs and conditions. 500,000 workers across the country.
That many, wow.
Including civil servants, university lecturers, train drivers and teachers. Absent from lessons, Huda Benamuda. She teaches programming, but says the difference between her wages and the cost of living doesn't compute.
It is difficult, the heating at winter and all of this. I cut my gym membership. And I'm just worried, what else do I have to do in the future if things keep getting that bad, really?
The government keeps saying that teachers are on average well paid.
The government has given a pay rise. Yeah, they've given a pay rise between 2.5% and 5%. That was not funded. That came out of school budget. That's children's money.
Resources wise, we're stretched. It means that, when you were younger and you get to go on all those trips, or you had textbooks that you could take home, we just don't have those things anymore, and it's not fair.
I think I heard about the teacher unions striking, and I heard about the train.
Yeah, I heard about the trains.
Actually, a
lot of the trains.
They started doing some of those right after we left.
Yeah, we got out just in time, kind of.
Because I know JP, when he went over there, he was actually dealing with some of that. Yeah, and on the whole teacher thing, I've always heard that they're underpaid. I know even like over here in the, obviously, not comparing the UK to the US, but I know in the US, they're considered underpaid. It's just a hard time right now, I think, overall, because
everybody's kind of hurting.
And maybe they'll explain why exactly, but I know it's like inflation is outpacing the money. Right now, I know they're talking over here that like we're having this like recovering economy, like we've had like a 5% wage increase. But inflation has gone up like 6.5%.
Yes, it's still not catching up.
Even though everyone's making more hourly and bringing home more money, it's not going as far.
No.
And again, we'll talk about a little bit more of that, especially in our own personal lives here soon.
They need to be realistic, don't they? The country can only afford so much, so they need to come to some compromise.
According to the law, only 6 official pickets are allowed on the line, but there's no limit to the number of supporters. And so the union says it's had to be strategic about where to send the most supporters to have the most impact. Here we're next to a really busy road, and there's been so far lots of support from the public. But how long can they rely on that support to continue?
Roki and her sister Essie making the most of a day at home. Their dad, Ohi, is a finance manager and has had to take a day off during what is his busiest time of year.
Yeah, it was actually when they mentioned the schools were, or the teachers were going on strike, I was wondering if the schools were able to stay open. It doesn't sound like they are, so that's not only a strain, I mean, that's kind of putting a strain on the parents, I would think.
Yeah, because then they're having to either take off work or do something to take care of their kids because the kids can't go to school.
I'm not saying that they shouldn't strike and they shouldn't ask for better wages.
But it is having a ripple effect.
But yeah, there's always a ripple effect. Like when the train drivers take strikes, then no one's going to work. No one's going to, like all
people can lose their jobs because of it.
Yeah. Well, I actually don't know. There might be some kind of law where you can't lose your job based off that. I'm not for sure over there.
Being late on a train?
Well, if it's not your fault, like they've canceled the train, I don't know.
I've had to let the team down and take the day off to look after the kids, because they are not having any schooling today. It's impacting me, my career, my team, but I think also importantly the kids.
And it's the impact on his kids that he worries about. The girls pride themselves on their attendance, but there could be more strike days to come this month.
Despite your concerns about the girls' education, you still have sympathy for the teachers.
Absolutely, because the teachers go over and beyond what they should do every day. I know lots of teachers who use personal funds to purchase books for their schools because the government funding is not sufficient anymore.
Yeah, that's the same thing I've heard over here. Like teachers will pay like for notebooks and pencils and stuff just out of pocket.
Their schools because the government funding is not sufficient anymore.
Actually, kind of happy to be at home.
You're happy to have a day off?
That's very cheeky of you.
The government described today's action as disruptive and disappointing. Data collected by the DFE suggests that around 10% of schools were fully closed in England. Of the rest, around half had to partially close.
Wow.
It was built in 71, designed to last for 30 years, and we've got leaks. We had about 13 leaks when we had the rain recently.
David Phillips has struggled with cuts to his secondary school budget over the last few years. Around a third of his teachers were on strike today, and so some students had to stay at home.
What's it been like for you today logistically?
It's caused a lot of disruption, but I think we've all got to take the bigger picture in mind here. We've got students who are missing a day's learning, absolutely, and parents will be concerned about that. But what's education going to be like? What's the staffing going to be like? And what kind of provision is going to be like in 15, 20 years' time?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
You got to think of the future as well.
More long term. I was gonna say though, this has to be really rough for students. I would feel like, especially since I think the UK's been kind of out of the COVID restrictions for almost a year now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you had kids that were at home studying for like 2.5 years.
They finally make it back to
They're just
school.
finally getting back. Now, granted, these strikes aren't going on like consistently every day for months.
Right.
But still, it's like I'm just struggling and stuff like it's it's definitely a big
It could
deal.
put you back for sure.
And those questions about the future of education are unlikely to be resolved anytime soon. Next week, we'll see another big set of strikes when thousands of NHS workers
I've heard
take
about
action.
this one, yeah. And that's gonna be a big one.
Yeah.
If it's not actually already happened, I'm not for sure. This video came out like a week ago, so
Could be a little
Well,
behind.
earlier I caught up with the Education Secretary, Gillian Keegan, and I asked her about the crucial issue of a lack of teachers. Your numbers are dramatically up on, people not going to the profession, aren't they? So before the pandemic, actually during the pandemic, in 2021, it was 65,000 vacancies. Now it's 101,000 vacancies.
goodness.
That's in just over a year. It's gone up by 40,000. You're just not being able to recruit the people you need, and once you've got them, to retain them.
Well, it's not as simple as that. So you've got primary schools and secondary schools, and then you've got secondary schools by teachers and subjects. Primary schools, we pretty much meet our recruitment challenges. Secondary schools for some topics. So for some subjects, so I think in before the pandemic, I think for most, more than half of the topics, we were making sure that we were recruiting teachers.
But you're not going to be able to recruit those teachers and keep them if you don't make their jobs worthwhile. And the complaints that we're hearing over and over again is that this is a profession that people want to do, they are passionate about, but it's not worth their financial while to do so.
Our teachers are doing a brilliant job. They're doing a brilliant job of helping our children catch up from the pandemic. That's why it's so disappointing, because obviously having a strike when our children have suffered so much, it's they still need to catch up.
But you could solve that strike by actually negotiating with the teachers, which you're not doing.
I am negotiating with the teacher. I have.
They're
been
saying
sat
you're not
down.
negotiating, you're sitting down with them, but it's not a negotiation.
Well, what I've said to them is we will not be able to consider inflation or inflation-busting pay increases. It just would be the wrong thing. What we need to do is focus on halving inflation, getting inflation down.
By the time inflation has got down to acceptable levels, which, who knows how long that will take, you would have lost another 10, 20,000 teachers or so.
Anybody knows that this is a people business, and it's much easier to retain people than to recruit lots of new people.
Is the strategy here to basically run the clock down to the exams? Because the longer you wait and the longer these strikes continue, the closer we get to the exam period, GCSEs and A-levels, which is crucial for the kids, especially for pupils. Is that the strategy?
Absolutely not, and we've said we want exam cohorts to be prioritised to make sure that they're in school today. There's no strategy such as that. Our strategy is to halve inflation. Of course, we need to make sure that we focus on inflation, and there are different factors of inflation. What we can't do is now have wages making a bigger contribution to inflation once we get those other things under control through energy and energy supply, etc.
Yeah, so I don't really know one way or the other because this is more like political stuff, and I'm obviously I'm not British.
Politics are a bit different over here, but it seems a little ridiculous to focus on inflation because that is a huge thing to tackle, especially as a teacher, part of the teachers union, because it doesn't always apply. You have your own things to worry about. You know, educating the children are a huge job, and so worrying about inflation is like, oh well, you can survive off what you're being paid if we can tackle inflation, but that's like not part of your job. I feel like that's kind of a little ridiculous to be like, oh, we'll just take inflation down because that's how.
She's not saying take inflation down. She's saying instead of paying the teachers what they're demanding, I think is what she's saying, if they can get inflation down.
I know, but how are they going to get inflation down?
Bringing like the energy prices down, bringing the prices of food down, getting the supply chain back rolling again.
Right, but I just don't see how her as part of the Secretary of Education able to do that. But I do feel like your priority should be more on the teaching and the schooling. And I was going to go off of that. Teachers do deserve a lot, especially good teachers, because if you have a passion for it and you're good at it, then you should be paid well because it is a hard job. I just know from the little experience I have teaching my son to read, it's a lot of patience and a lot of perseverance, and it can be really hard and take a long time, so I understand why you should deserve a higher pay and how important it is.
Well, the industrial action brought disruption to towns and cities across the UK. I went out and about here in Leeds to speak to people on the picket lines.
Teachers, university lecturers, train drivers and civil servants united in determination today at a rally in Leeds. On picket lines dotted around the town, there was talk that this was a general strike in all but name.
As a historian of Labour history, welcome back to 1926.
I mean, do you think the public's really going to be on side for that if this keeps going much longer?
I mean, the thing is, we are the public, we are the workers, we are on strike. So the public is on side, clearly, because we're all striking for better conditions. We've realised what we're worth, and it's important that we keep doing it.
And that's a good point, because a lot of the people affected are the ones protesting, so they're not going to be really upset about, like, my kids aren't going to school. Well, because I'm also working and striking with my own business.
100,000 are thought to have walked out today, some way short of the 1.5 million and more who downed tools in the only general strike in British history nearly a century ago.
But you're talking about across the public sector. It is basically a general strike, isn't it?
Well, no, it's about each union working with their members to say that if you look at the cost of living crisis, you look at the cost of inflation, and you look at the cost of life changing for people. And our members are vital to keeping this country going.
Yeah, this is one of those, like, it's rough because, like, yeah, coming through COVID, the supply chain issues, it has done a lot to the world, like, honestly. I just want to quickly say some of the stuff going on over here. We don't really have as many unions, so we're not seeing as many strikes. We had some railroad thread-in strikes.
Oh, yeah.
We had the railroad thread-in strikes, but
which would have disrupted a lot of supply. Not so much transit, obviously. Like, human transit.
Would have upset the whole country.
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't have been getting anything, nothing would have been going anywhere. The trains going on strike is a big deal, but it never really happens because the government just meets their demands.
Yeah.
The truckers were going to go on strike, but that never happened. I'm not exactly for sure why. I know just in a personal sense, some of the stuff going on with us, though, is I've cut like a lot of our excess streaming platforms, memberships. I canceled a credit card or two. Really just went through and made sure like that any of our excess money wasn't just being wasted.
Right.
Which is a good thing to do anyway. And then I know like our food prices have gone up quite a bit.
I just found out our water bill went up.
All our utilities, our electric's up like $40 a month. Gas is up about $40 a month. I mean, I've seen some of the comments on another video we did, and a lot of people were asking about the egg thing.
Oh yeah.
So apparently, from what I understand, there was a bird flu that went through a few months back and wiped out a bunch of the chickens. And then also...
So it cut the supply down a lot, so it's really hard to meet demand now.
Well, we've also had some weird fires.
Oh, really?
I don't know why. They just,
I didn't hear about that.
We've had some fires in some of the chicken farms, and like hundreds of thousands of birds have been killed on top of the flu. So right now, yeah, there's like an egg shortage right now in the U.S., and they're expensive. They're like $5 a dozen. You said there's like a limitation on how many you can
all
get?
the places I went went to, because I just went shopping, and they always have a limitation of how many cartons or whatever you can buy. Now, some stores will sell big cartons. Like one store I went to, they were selling like 5 dozen eggs.
Yeah, because you do most of the shopping.
Yeah.
And then also I just heard today that there's some egg smuggling from Mexico, because it's a federal crime to transport eggs from Mexico into the U.S. So people are risking prison time to smuggle eggs in.
Wow.
From Mexico. It's a weird one. It's almost like the toilet paper shortage, except a little bit more extreme, because eggs are obviously more important.
That's debatable, but I understand your point.
So that's kind of what's going on with the egg shortage. Is it's real, it's happening, and pretty much like all the memes are pretty good of like if you had chickens and stuff, like you're sitting on a gold mine right now. It's like the 3 things to invest in is gold, oil, and chickens. But so yeah, anyway guys, wrapping up on just a little bit of what's going on over here. So again, our wages have gone up a lot, but again with inflation, I don't think
they still don't quite compare.
Yes, I don't think it's kept up with the pace, so we're still running, like our dollar is not going as far, and we've even definitely noticed that.
Life changing for people, and our members are vital to keeping this country going.
Still, the disruption has been felt across the country today, not least at the school gate. At times it was as hard to glimpse the end of the march as it was to see where this industrial action ends.
Yeah, I'd like the impact to be bigger, but I also recognise that people being not being able to travel, we don't want to put anybody to any distress. But how else do you make your point?
The impact do you think today will make?
Not enough, maybe. I wish more. I think a lot of the public maybe don't understand where we're coming from. It's not just about pay, certainly not for me. It's about everything else that's happening in schools. It's about the pressure that's put on us. It's about the amount of hours I work. It's about...
I was going to say there's one thing, I would imagine, like, yeah, if you're losing a lot of teachers, then the workload is probably getting transferred to all the existing teachers still. So eventually, when you get to a point like if you're doing like one person is doing 2 people's jobs or 1.5 jobs and they're making the same amount of money.
And that's one thing, like a teacher could be okay with what they're being paid, but
then when you
can't have new teachers coming in because they're not going to be making the same, or it's not going to be the same for them, and it's not going to be worth it. So you have so many less employees, and that's where all that workload is getting dumped on all the current teachers.
Also, I want to bring up our housing. So we had that huge housing bubble. Everything was selling really expensive really quickly. That's kind of starting to simmer down, and to try to tamp down inflation, they're raising the interest rates. So they've doubled since COVID, where we're setting like a 6.5-7% interest rates for housing. So
it's happening in schools. It's about the pressure that's put on us. It's about the amount of hours I work. It's about the fact that people think I'm paid for all my holidays and I'm not.
The strikes made life difficult for some bystanders. They took others by surprise, but there was broad sympathy.
I've just come out, actually. I didn't know it was even happening, so very ignorant of me. But yeah, good on them.
Right, it hasn't made much of an impact on your life then, the strikes?
Well, yeah, but totally get it, and the changes happen. So yeah, I should be joining, but I've just got to get back to work.
I couldn't get to work this morning, so obviously because of the train strikes, it's been a little bit difficult. So,
but do you sympathise with them?
I do. Obviously, everyone wants to be paid, don't they? So I do, but it does cause disruption.
Sorry, this is totally off topic. That looks like a massive phone. I know it's totally off topic, guys, but I'm just like, that's huge.
She's just a small woman, maybe.
All out then, whippets included.
What's a whippet?
I don't know.
I know it's a dog.
I was about to ask.
For the first time nor the last in what is becoming an increasingly bitter dispute with the government.
So I do see how a lot of them coming together is not just for saying, hey, we need to be paid better. It's just kind of saying, hey, all of us are being affected. You need to do something, talking to like the government or whoever's in charge, and kind of like inflation is becoming too much right now. And you guys are not compensating properly, not just through pay, but just like it's too much and everybody's being affected. So it's kind of like a wake-up call, I think, is what they're trying to push out there with all the strikes.
There's arguments on both sides. It's like one problem I've heard with inflation is, and I know this probably isn't the case over there, but like you can't just raise the wage, because then that's just going to raise inflation.
Yeah.
And you can't, if you keep doing that, eventually you have hyperinflation, and that's when you run into moments where like
everything will crash.
Well, that's when your money becomes worthless, and you have like people wheelbarrowing literally wheelbarrows of money for a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
That's happened in the past, because it's
just not worth anything at that point.
So you have to be careful with it, and I think that's one reason why they raise the housing interest rates so much, is to tamp down people from buying as much.
Maybe.
So
to kind of slow down the market.
Like a forceful slowdown. At least that's what they do over here. Anyway, guys, yeah, just interested in your comments down below. I think that's mostly what's kind of going on over here. Like, we don't feel it day to day, but then when you look overall, like your monthly bills, definitely notice it.
Especially within the last few months. Like, as soon as the winter season hit, a lot of people started realizing, oh, this is higher than it used to be. Oh, this is higher than it used to be. Everything just went up.
I know the energy costs over there were like 80% or 100% more than what they used to be.
Jeez.
And we weren't obviously we didn't hit that point. So it's gone up like 30%. But still, I mean, that's, I don't know. Like I said, like we're definitely noticing.
Still a big jump to happen all of a sudden. So I know this is all a bit depressing and kind of somber and everything like that, but I do have a little bit of good news to share because in case you haven't noticed, I'm representing our home team, the Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs. I had to show it because we're going to the Super Bowl, which is a really big deal in the NFL, and I'm really excited because I'm a huge fan, and I just had to support a little bit, at least in one video.
You know, you just lost 90% of the audience.
Not necessarily.
No one cares.
I know you don't care about American football. It's a big deal to me, and the fact that we're in the Super Bowl is a really big deal.
And that's a big deal
it makes me really happy. Yes, it is, because I've been a Chiefs fan my whole life.
Anyway, guys, just ignore that. Yeah, just a different video. We've started the channel. I really do care about what's going on with you guys. We've definitely built some friendships over there.
Yeah, and I know you guys are affected personally, and feels like it affects us a little bit too.
Yeah, and so this is just like I don't know, I figured like react to the video, that way we can start the conversation and read through the comments and respond back to you guys. So
yeah,
let us know how you guys are experiencing it personally. Maybe it's not affecting you guys, maybe it's more just
maybe it's
in the
certain cities.
Yeah, cities or only certain jobs. I'm not for sure. Just let us know and share your thoughts. And that being said, as always, just please be safe, take care, look after one another, and as always, cheers.